Hey everyone, and welcome to RUBIN'S Mind Lab, where we break down the latest research into what it really means. Ever wonder how kids in foster care or group homes learn to use the internet safely and effectively? In today's episode, we're diving deep into a fascinating study that explores media education in residential child and youth welfare, asking what is really going on behind the scenes and what professionals and the young people themselves believe. So imagine this, a place where young people live, and instead of parents, they have dedicated professionals guiding them. Now, these young people are growing up in a world flooded with digital stuff, smartphones, social media, online games. It is a whole new landscape for communication, but it also comes with risks like misinformation, bullying, and even addiction. The big question in places like residential care is, how do you help these kids navigate this digital world? How do you make sure they can participate safely and learn the skills they need, while also protecting them from harm? This is the challenge of media education. That is exactly what this research team wanted to find out. They conducted 3 studies to get a clear picture of media education in these settings. They wanted to understand what helps professionals do a good job with media education, what challenges they face, and how the young people's own views compare to what the professionals think. Are they on the same page about the risks and how to handle them? In the first study, they looked at what influences how professionals approach media education. They surveyed about 73 professionals. What they found was pretty interesting. Professionals who felt more confident in their own media literacy, meaning they felt good using digital devices, tended to be more involved in media education. Also, if the young people themselves were seen as more media literate, that also encouraged professionals to be more active. But here is a really important piece. The more one-on-one time professionals had with the young people, especially if it was very frequent, the more intense their media educational activities were. It seems like the personal connection really matters here. Building on those findings, the second study went straight to the source and compared how professionals and the young people in their care saw things. They had about 40 professionals and 40 young people participate. And guess what? There were some notable differences. Young people reported experiencing more active mediation, like having actual conversations about what they were doing online and doing things together digitally. On the flip side, professionals thought they were doing less active mediation than the young people experienced. It is like a communication gap. This gap extended to restrictive strategies too. Professionals said they set fewer rules and technical limits than the young people reported actually experiencing. And when it came to risks like internet gaming disorder, young people reported more symptoms of it than the professionals observed, suggesting that sometimes professionals might be underestimating the silent struggles young people are facing online. The third study then dug even deeper, bringing together everything they learned. They looked at what predicts whether professionals use more creative, open-ended media education strategies versus just setting rules. They found that being older, having a higher motivation to learn about media education, integrating media education into daily routines, and having a supportive institutional environment all pointed towards more active mediation. Now, for restrictive mediation, the rule-setting kind being older was still a factor. But surprisingly, lower personal media literacy was linked to more restrictive approaches. This might suggest that if professionals aren't fully comfortable with digital tools themselves, they might default to just telling young people what they can't do, rather than guiding them on how to use things safely. Also, a strong focus on the institutional framework, meaning the institution itself had a clear media pedagogical strategy, heavily predicted restrictive mediation. What is really telling is the training needs expressed by these professionals. A huge percentage wanted to learn more about using digital media for educational purposes and how to integrate it into everyday practices. They also highlighted significant needs around dealing with media addiction and cyberbullying. This shows a real desire to move beyond just managing risks and towards building genuine competencies. Looking at the box plots, you can see the differences clearly. For instance, professionals generally reported higher levels of active mediation, media literacy, and a stronger institutional framework compared to what the young people reported. This reinforces that disconnect we saw in study 2. The data also showed there were quite a few identified problems, like media addiction and age-inappropriate content, which were reported more frequently than in the general population. So, what does this all mean? The researchers found that professionals are generally aware of the importance of media education and its potential benefits. However, there is a significant gap between what professionals believe they're doing and what the young people are actually experiencing. This could mean that a professional might make a quick comment about a child's phone use and think they've covered it. But the adolescent might not see that as truly supportive or educational guidance. This leads to the idea of a professionalization framework. They suggest that for media education to really work, it needs to happen on 3 levels: structure, competency, and attitude. On the structural level, institutions need better technical equipment like reliable Wi-Fi and enough devices. It's like trying to teach cooking without a kitchen. They also need clear media pedagogical concepts that encourage participation, not just protection. When it comes to competency, even though professionals rated their own media literacy highly, they showed a big gap in their ability to actually teach these skills to young people. They need training that goes beyond just personal tech skills to understanding how to foster youth competencies. They suggest adapting teaching models for this specific setting. And finally, attitude is key. Professionals need to see digital spaces as a real and important part of young people's lives, not something separate or dangerous to be avoided. They need to shift from just protecting to empowering. The study also highlighted that when professionals had more one-on-one time with young people, their media education efforts were more intense. This suggests that media education in these settings is deeply tied to the relationship work they already do. Now, it is important to remember that this study has its limits. The sample sizes, especially for the young people in study 3, were not huge, so we need to be careful about generalizing too much. Also, this was a snapshot in time, so they can't say for sure if better infrastructure causes better media education, or if motivated professionals just push for better infrastructure. Future studies could look at this over time and maybe even analyze the actual media education plans institutions have. So, what are the practical takeaways? First, organizations need to invest in the basics. That means good Wi-Fi and accessible devices. Second, training needs to focus on changing attitudes, shifting from just rules to empowering young people to be digitally competent. It is about helping experienced professionals see that active engagement is more effective long-term than just restriction. And crucially, young people themselves need to be involved in creating these media education plans and risk assessments. Their experiences are key to making sure these programs actually work. In conclusion, media education in residential child and youth care is a complex dance between resources, motivation, and the specific environment of the institution. While professionals are ready and willing to improve, and they see the risks, there is a clear need for better structural support and more targeted training to bridge the gap between what professionals are doing and what young people truly need. What do you guys think about this? Have you seen situations where there is a disconnect between what adults think is best for young people online and what young people actually experience? Let me know in the comments below, and if you found this breakdown helpful, please give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to RUBIN'S Mind Lab for more science simplified, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next dive into the fascinating world of psychology. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.